Welcome to News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery.
Welcome to our program today. I am so pleased to have as our guest this morning Judy Warren, who is the Executive Director of the Midland, Odessa Area Aids Support Group. You've heard from her in the past. She's been on the program before, but she's here to give us a lot of updated information and some good news and bad news. And also accompanying her is Patti DeFrance, who is the Secretary of the Board for Midland, Odessa Area Aids Support Group, which we call MAAS. And so I am so glad to welcome you two. And I want, before we start the program, I want us to know a little bit about each of you. So give us your background and tell us how you got to the MAAS.
MAAS. Okay, but first of all, I want to thank you for having me on regularly, because AIDS is something that's changing all the time.
Something so needed, yes.
Yes, and so I love keeping everybody up on it. Well, I did interior design for years and years in Houston, Texas. And thought that would be what I would do the rest of my life, was designing and decorating beautiful homes, and loved it and everything until my brother came and told me that he had HIV, and he was the dearest person to me in this world. He was like my son. He was 10 years younger than me. He was my best friend, my soulmate, and little did I know, just those few words, I have HIV, how fast my life would just change. And now, he died in 1990.
Which was long before most people had ever heard the word.
Oh, yes, and we feared for our lives even, you know, and this is something that the young people today, they weren't born then, so they have no idea what we went through, and the ridicule.
The harassment.
The harassment. I remember taking him to an eye doctor one time because he was going blind after the viruses entered his eyes, and they literally put us all the way in the back in a broom closet, dark broom closet. They had put 2 chairs in there looking out into a vast room full of nothing but trash. And he laid his head in my lap, and I remember sitting there thinking, are they calling us trash? We are not trash, you know. And
but that so changed your life.
Oh, yes.
That you just threw away the first vocation that you had of interior design. And
actually, I didn't throw it away. God called me to this, and if I ever get to finish my book, I'm going to talk about how I was like Peter, who denied Christ 3 times, because I denied Christ 3 times. He called me to speak. I said, I was the shyest person. Nobody that knows me now can believe that. But I couldn't speak in front of 5 people without almost fainting. And I told God no, and then he called me again and again, and I said, no, I don't speak. Okay, I'll do it. And finally, the first job just went away, because when God calls somebody to speak and gives them the voice, as we say in Walk to Emmaus, he did not call me because I was equipped. He equipped me. He called me and he equipped me, and he gave me a voice. And people who know me today say that I can never shut up about AIDS, but that's because after doing it for almost 24 years and holding hundreds, literally hundreds of young people's hands as they're dying, and watching their families just fall apart, I don't know how we'll ever stop. And we're going to talk about your brother and some of the other patients that you've held their hands in the program today. But Patti, I want you to talk about yourself, because you also have an interesting path to MAAS.
I moved to Midland in 1974 and jumped in with both feet as far as volunteering, Girl Scouts, youth group at the church, PTA, and have always had an interest in our youth being educated and current in what can be harmful to them. So I had the privilege of meeting Judy when I took my walk to Emmaus. She told her story, and I heard her story.
Was one of the speakers, wasn't she?
Yes, she was one of the speakers. And so that's when it whetted my appetite as to
because you
what
had children of your own
I
that
do.
age.
I do have. I have 2 children. They're adult children now, and I have 4 grandchildren. And I do want my grandchildren to understand and be educated on what can be harmful to them. So yes, I've graduated from parent to grandparent in my concerns.
And from ignorance to knowledge about AIDS, thanks to her going out and doing this.
So I had the privilege of being invited to join the board 3 years ago, and it's really, when you put a face to it, it's far more meaningful.
When you see the pictures of the people who are patients.
Yes.
Can I jump in and say one thing? We just recently, we're very good friends, and we just recently went to a restaurant, I won't say which one, and to have lunch, and the most precious young girl waited on us, and beautiful and everything, and she left to go get our food and everything, and I told Patti, I said, she's one of our clients. And Patti sat there and just cried. She said, oh my God, she just couldn't hardly get a hold of herself. She said, to put a face to it like that.
But aren't you pleased to have someone with that compassion on your board?
You better believe
They're
it.
not just there for another prestige thing to check on their credentials.
All of our board is like that. All of our board is like that. They are very compassionate. They have the passion for this. We have 4 doctors on our board. A lot of our board members have been there 16 years and more, and the whole board is that way. They know the need, which is important today because we don't hear about AIDS. So everybody thinks there's no problem with AIDS anymore.
Yeah, and we really need to talk about that. As a matter of fact, I want us to talk about medications. I want us to talk about how it's growing. We should be suppressing it by now, but it's a growing disease.
Yes.
We're going to have to take a break right now, but we're going to be back in just a minute and continue this conversation because Patti's going to talk to us about fundraisers, and she's going to talk to us about more about the things you need to know. We'll be back in just a minute and continue this.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.